Hi, my name is Peter, and I'm an alcoholic. And I have some experience with these steps, the way they're laid out in our book, with the help of a big book step study sponsor, an amazing presence of God, and meetings like this, and people like you. And I have several amends left to make, and I am working a lot of steps to the best of my ability. And it's great to be here this morning. And I'm very grateful that my friend Jim asked me to speak here. This is the very first Big Book Step Study meeting that I ever found myself in. About, saw a friend over there, almost 5 years ago. And I came in here, and it's funny that they talk all about the relationship stuff right off the bat in this part of this chapter. And it really brought me back to where I was at, because my alcoholism had driven me out of my home, and my head was spinning. You know, emotionally I was just completely bankrupt. And I found myself at this meeting with a friend, and I either didn't hear the chairperson mention or say in the reading at the beginning that in order to speak at this meeting you had to have been through this process. So I either didn't hear that, or I came in late, or I neglected to hear that, because when the microphone came to me, and we were on, I remember it was step 4. I'm not quite sure what part of step 4 it was on, but I was ready to do my 5th step from right out there in the audience. And I'm not kidding you. I was like, I didn't know left from right, up from down. My mind was spinning. I was emotionally a wreck. But for the grace of God, I ran to meetings in God and not back to drugs and alcohol. And my friend didn't hesitate to snatch the microphone out of my hand and was like, "Not here, Pete. Not now. Today is not the day for this." So a little humility was planted in my head at that point, because I really, at that point in my life, I just wanted to be heard. I didn't want to listen. I needed to listen, but I didn't want to listen. I just wanted to be heard. It was all about me. This is what's going on in my life. You know, I'm hurting, and I want everybody to know it. You know, and I wasn't capable of really listening. And that was the last time I was at this meeting. And here I am today, up here, and it's been a hell of a 5-year journey for me, 4.5, 5 years, you know. And you know, we get to this point in the book, and we talk about having that spiritual awakening and carrying the message and working with others. And just, you know, I look at this step, and it's like incorporating everything we've learned about ourselves when we get up to this point, you know, and being able to share that with another alcoholic and let them know that there is hope, and there is a way out, and there is a way to live a peaceful, serene life with happiness, you know, after doing all this work. You know, yeah, I was hurting that day, and I was about to embark on a journey that I had no idea what I was about to embark on, you know. And it's been an amazing 4.5 years. A lot of pain along the way, without a doubt. You know, God put, you know, after this meeting, then I found myself up at Leominster Big Book Step Study. I'm like, I got to go to meetings. You know, I was a wreck. You know, and a lot of this stuff. Let me back up, you know, real briefly. My marriage failed. I was in sobriety too. I was sober, but I wasn't in recovery at all. You know, I met my now ex-wife and moved away from my support group. Never did the Big Book Step Study thing. Did it differently. Did a 4th step before that was just, I scratched down all this. You know, my sponsor said, "Here, write down all your deepest, darkest secrets that you swore you'd take to the grave with you, you know, and then read them to them." I didn't learn anything about myself doing that. I just saw all this crazy stuff I did, you know. So I got married, I moved away, my disease had me. It was like, you just don't need to drink and you'll be fine. I believed that. My disease had me believing that. And unfortunately, my marriage was probably the darkest point of my life. I hate to say it, but my alcoholism was at its peak in sobriety, if you can understand that. Because like it said right at the end here, the bottle was, mere, but a symbol, Bottles were a symbol, Our alcoholism is up here in our brains, in our mind. That's where it all begins. My marriage was a very sick period of my life. It did lead to a relapse. I self-diagnosed myself, and I was having some medical issues, and they weren't going to give me any pain meds, and I was waiting for tests. I was waiting for test results to come back, and prior to all that, waiting for all that, of all people, my mother-in-law at the time had like a half a bottle of some painkillers. And she's like, here, take these. These will help you. And last time I checked, she didn't have a license to prescribe medication. But my disease had me, and it told me, you are justified in taking these, all right? You're in pain, you need to work, you need to, provide for your family, because I always did that. Everything looked good on the outside, it really did. The house, the wife, the kids, the white picket fence, mowing the lawn, everything was great on the outside, but everything on the inside was so unhealthy. My disease in that period of time spiraled me into a very dark place, and it wasn't with drugs or alcohol, it was with like porn and video games, and a very dark and disturbing time of my life, and that's how my disease got me. I'm not going to get into all that, but all that was revealed to me in my writing, and I took the pills, and it wasn't long after that I really spiraled into a real dark place, and no communication, and finally my ex-wife was like, I don't love you anymore. It was awful. It came out of left field. I never saw it coming. I'll never forget that day. And I went through all those phases of grief where I didn't want to accept it, and I tried to bargain, and I got angry, and I went through all that before I finally got to the acceptance part of it. And I moved out. This disease, like it said in here, we talked about relationships, the wife will never come back for one reason or another. I'm divorced now, I got 3 beautiful children with her, and, but my marriage is over as a direct result of my alcoholism, my untreated alcoholism, I need this stuff. I need this book. I need you people. I needed to understand, I had to start from the beginning and go through it. Step 1, yes, I'm powerless over everything. Step 2, yeah, I can see the idea of me being insane and just having a little bit of faith that God will restore that sanity to me. And thank God I had enough of an open mind to just, God put the right men in my life. And my scorecards read 0. And I was early on I went through all the denial stuff, and I wanted my wife and my house and my kids, all the material things I wanted back. And, my friend was like, you need to, and I was playing the victim, because we played a victim so well. I worked hard at that. And he's like, you need to look at yourself. The right men said the right things to me. You need to look at yourself and stop blaming her. But for the grace of God, I did. God put another man in my life. I met at Big Book Step Study in Leominster. He took me through the steps. I did a 3rd step with him and my grant sponsor. That was an amazing experience, sitting down and doing that. And just, step 3 is just, it's a prayer. We're making a decision to embark on this journey. And then, the way this whole book is laid out, we say a prayer and then we take an action. Step 3 is a prayer, then we take some action. We start doing the writing. And then I started doing that fearless inventory, and this is all going to lead up to step 12, and I wrote, this is all important part of step 12. I wrote all this stuff, it's like, all right, start doing your fourth, your resentments, your fears, your sex conduct. And I did it as, to the best of my ability, as fearless as I possibly could. I did. I prayed before, every time I sat down and picked up that notebook, my sponsor would have me pray. He's like, if you have to go get up and take a piss, when you get back down, pray again. Bring God into it every time you start writing. It was very important to him. It was very important to him to point out to me every single death threat that's in this book. Because there's death threats in this book everywhere. To drink is to die. Resentments is the number one offense. There's all kinds of death threats, he called them, in this book. And it's true. That can be the ultimate, that's what our disease wants, and I wrote my resentments, I did my turnarounds, I did my fears, I did all the sex stuff, and I had a spiritual experience during that whole point of my writing, obviously, and learning all that stuff about myself, that fearless look inward at me for the first time in my life. And then I did my fifth, and that was a totally different experience in itself, reading that fifth to my sponsor and having different epiphanies and different God moments as I'm reading the stuff that I wrote. I'm reading it, and it's like, I wrote that? It's like I didn't even really, if you can understand that, it was like a different meaning to it as I'm reading it to my sponsor, and just the things I learned about myself as I was doing it. And then that leads us up to 6 and 7, where, okay, and these steps are in an order. God gave Bill Wilson, I believe Bill Wilson wrote this book through God, and he had him write it in this order for a reason. It's like, I don't even know what my character defects are. I didn't know what they were until I did 4 and 5. I hung on to that. That was the essence of me, That's what I ran on. That's, and then they talk about the hole in the donut in here, and becoming the hole in the donut, and not being, I'm working with a guy right now, and there's a lot of fear that he's got with that. He's afraid that he's going to become something he doesn't want to be, and all I can tell him is I'm working with him, you don't need to be afraid of that. That's not the man that God wants you to be. And all I can do is share with him what has been given to me. I've learned that I can't share anything that I don't have. Okay, that was something that was foreign to me, because I would always try to be something that I wasn't, and that expends a lot of mental and physical energy and spiritual energy, trying to be something that we're not. And I don't have to be that today. I can give you what I have, and if I don't have something that you need, then I have to suggest you talk to somebody else. This guy that I'm working with, he's got other stuff going on mentally that needs to be diagnosed by, I don't know. I can't help you with your depression. I know what works for me. I do this stuff. I feel good. I pray. I meditate. I work with other alcoholics. I carry the message, and I'm feeling pretty good. If I'm not doing that stuff, I'm not feeling pretty good. If I'm having PETA days where I'm running on self-propulsion and self-will, I know. See, the difference is today I have an awareness. I see it sooner than later. Yep, that was a PETA day. Oh yeah, we're having a PETA moment. When I'm not having, when I'm doing things that block God from my heart. But I'm aware of it sooner than later, and I can pull myself out of it. I know I have the tools. I have this book. I have so many wonderful friends in the program. And I have God, which is the main thing, which is what this book is about, and then from learning all about my character defects, and it's okay that I have them. It's okay. Working with other people, maybe God wants a character defect to come out of me so someone else can see it, right? And then they can learn from it. If that's God's plan, God's going to take my character defects as he sees it fit, not as I see it fit. This is still a work in progress too, but I'm learning to trust God's timing in everything, every facet of my life. I have to trust God's timing. not my timing. And it's not the same, believe me. It's not the same. You know, I'm a self-centered, selfish alcoholic, you know, and I want instant gratification. It doesn't work that way. You know, I've learned how to have patience and tolerance and acceptance. You know, love and tolerance of others is our code. And so I learned all about my character defects, and I'm still learning. You know, I'm involved in a men's drop the rock, and it's an amazing. I have such an amazing network of you know, men and women friends actually in this program that I've been blessed with. But I've got some amazing men that God has put in my life that all have a sincere desire to change who they were and have, you know, that desire to want to look at themselves and do what they got to do to be a child of God. You know, and then we get to the amends portion of this stuff, and that's another toughie, you know, writing down everybody, you know, it's like, oh, so you learn all about yourself, you know, you find out about what your character defects mean, and, you know, and when they shine through, and, you know, and where they have in your life, and the people that they have affected, and so it's just the way this whole book is laid out is amazing. You know, and then we start making amends to people, and we start feeling better, and there's fear revolved around that, and there's more trust in God that's involved, and but we do it, you know, and I've got amends that I need to do that I have fear around, and I'm not sure if it's, do I make this amend, or is it, you know, because if the amend's going to cause more harm, maybe we should back away from it, and that's why it's really, really important, I think, to have a good sponsor by your side when you're getting ready to do this kind of stuff, and to really work with them and stay close to them, you know. And then we get to the maintenance steps, you know, 10 and 11, you know, if I have an effed up day, and I know I was, you know, or if I'm in fear or something, I can write it out. My sponsor told me, write it out, just like the mini fourth. You know, I remember one day I was bringing my kids home, and I was tired, and I was hungry, and I was feeling a bit of self-pity and jealousy, and I see her building shed, putting a new door in, new appliances, and it's like I got jealous and resentful because I'm living in a very small, very modest place that I'm kind of embarrassed about at times. That's my own shit. That's me, okay? I can't worry about being judged by others. If I'm sitting in that's my stuff, and I need to look at it. But my point is I walked in there, and her boyfriend's in there, and I looked at him, and I said, I'm paying her too much effing child support. That's what came out of my mouth. I didn't even think. That was Peter. That wasn't God. You know? And I looked at this guy, and instantly, God like whacked me over the head instantly. And I looked right at him, and I was like, holy shit. I'm like, Dave, please don't say anything to her. Please don't tell her I said that. He didn't. Well, of course, my fun house up here all week, she's not responding to my texts the way that I thought she should be responding to him. She's not responding to me, so, yep, he told her. He absolutely told her. Well, you know, long story short, my point is I was sitting in some fear and self-pity and jealousy that day, all these character defects that block us off from God. Now, what she does in that house is none of my business anymore. It's not my house anymore, okay? And I know that now. But that day I didn't want to accept that. So I have these days. I wrote it out. My sponsor's like, write the shit out. I wrote it out. And I saw the truth in it. You know, and I saw my ex's boyfriend a week later, and I actually get along good with this guy. He likes the Patriots. He likes The Walking Dead. We have things in common that we can talk about. You know, and as a direct result of these steps, I have a great relationship with my ex-wife today. I probably have a better relationship with her than I've ever had, you know, in a long time. That's this, and that's God, you know, and so I apologized to the guy, and he shook my hand, and he accepted my apology. It's like, that's what it says we're supposed to do. Make the amend promptly. Because I can't sit in it. What this process has done for me is that I have to own my stuff today. Whether I want to or not, I have to own it. At least that's what happened to me. You know, when I make a mistake and I see it, I have to own it. You know, I was engaged in some self-righteous I had a very self-righteous attitude last week when I was working with a guy that I was working with, and we were having a discussion. I didn't want to hear what he had to say. I wanted to be heard. And the next day, I'm like, holy shit, Pete, what did you? That was wrong. So I apologized to him the next day. I'm like, David, geez, I was so out of line yesterday. I don't know where it came from, but that's still me. I don't do this stuff perfectly. You know, the difference is that I recognized it and I made the amend, you know. And then prayer and meditation, we talk about in step 11, getting closer to God and communicating with God, which is so important to me. I mean, I got here, I meditated in my car before I came in here and asked God for the words today, and I had no idea what step we were going to be talking about when I came here. I really want God to run the show, and I really want to bring God into every single facet of my life, because when I do that, things just happen the way they're supposed to, and I'm just much more of a serene person, you know. And then it brings us up to step 12, where we have the spiritual awakening, which I absolutely have had, you know. And it's time for me to carry on the message and work with other alcoholics. And God puts men in my life that, by no coincidence, have you know, I'm working with a couple of guys right now that have a lot of similarities to the stuff that was going on in my life, and it's absolutely a pleasure to work with these men. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to get it. You know, that's God's business, not mine. All I can do is show them and share with them what's been given to me. That's all this is. I got so afraid of the thought of sponsoring a guy. I can't do that. I'm not ready for that. And then God hit me over the head again. It's like, Pete, this isn't your work. This is God. This is my work. Just show them what you've been shown. It's all you have to do. It's pretty simple, actually. You know? I mean, sometimes you get phone calls from them, and those don't always go so well, and there's drama, but, as you know, but it's just it just feels so good to be able to work with other alcoholics, and carry the message and do service work, and even just sitting up here and sharing this with you people. It's such a blessing, and it makes me feel awesome, and it's carrying the message and letting everybody know that I have a new set of principles that I try to live by on a daily basis, you know, and that everything that I found out about myself isn't in vain at all. All that crazy, screwed up shit that I found out about myself, the resentments, the fears, the sex conduct, that can all be used to help somebody. All of it can be used to help somebody. It's not in vain at all. That's all God's plan. That's God's work. So I don't have to be ashamed or regret any of my past. That's what this book has taught me. You know, that can be used to help somebody else out. And that's what I think God wants, you know, and that's why I'm here. And, you know, that's what step 12 is to me. It's all about my experience and sharing it and trying to help and not talking down to someone from a spiritual hilltop. It's not about that. This is what I do, and I am more than willing to share it with you if you want to listen. You know, it's attraction, not promotion. You know, and then it's up to God. The rest of the stuff is God's business. And with that, it's great to be here. And you know, if you're doing this stuff and you find it's hard and painful, trudge through the pain. Pain induces growth. Do it. It's an amazing process. You know, and if you're thinking about doing it, do it. Do it. Do it fearlessly. Take that look at yourself. Bring God into the equation, and I'm convinced that you're going to be amazed at what you find out about yourself. What I learned about myself in the past 4 years is amazing. You know, and I want to share it with everybody. You know, and with that, thanks for having me today.
Awesome job.